The 66th running of the Le Mans 24-hour race promised to be one of the most open for years, with a new generation of GT cars setting the pace at the head of the field. On pole position was the Mercedes of Bernd Schneider. Alongside him, the brand new Toyota of Martin Brundle. Allan McNish upheld British honours in the two-car Porsche team, while Dane John Nielsen headed the four-car Nissan squad. In the GT2 category, it was the Chrysler Viper team that set the pace, while the open prototype class was led by the new BMW V12s. At 2 o'clock, the 47 starters headed for the cavalry charge towards the first corner, and the huge crowd waited to see who would set the pace and who would follow. From sixth on the grid, Pierluigi Martini made a determined start in the lead BMW, while the front two headed for the first corner side by side, and arrived at the first corner side by side with smoke pouring from locked wheels. First blood to Mercedes. Schneider led from Brundle with a small gap back to Martini in third. Out onto the long Mulsanne straight, and Brundle gave the Toyota crew the picture they wanted. Their brand new car at the head of the field, with teammates Thierry Boutsen and Keiichi Tsuchiya in fourth and sixth, ahead of the two Porsches and the leading Nissan. But for Mercedes, the race would be a disaster. After just over an hour, Schneider's car rolled to a halt with a dead engine and was pushed away to retirement. Soon to be joined by their second entry, as both cars suffered from failed water pumps. At the 3-hour mark, things were looking good for Toyota, as Brundle led Boutsen by 25 seconds, with the Porsche pair now up to third and fourth, but over a minute behind, with the number 25 car that French veteran Bob Wollek was sharing with young Germans Jörg Müller and Uwe Altzen heading the McNish machine. But the Toyota dream wasn't to last long. Eric Hellery in the lead car suddenly found himself without front brakes. He just managed to miss the barriers and the oncoming traffic. But the pit stop to investigate the cause would cost 13 precious minutes. After just one more lap, the car was back in the pits again, and this time the team pulled it into the garage for further repairs. This time, the stop would be longer.
Well, it was going very well. We were leading comfortably. And then after about 4.5 hours, we had a front wheel bearing problem. My teammate had a spin, lost the front brakes. You get a lot of knockoff on the front disc pads. So we lost best part of half an hour. We're on our way back through, but a lot of work to do. It'd be difficult to win it from here, but you never know.
So Toyota's honour now lay in the hands of Thierry Boutsen, co-driven by Briton Jeff Lees and German Ralf Kelleners, and after 4 hours they led the Porsche Challenge by just 29 seconds. The Nielsen Nissan was up to fourth and running like clockwork, but lapping a full 4 seconds off the lead pace, with his teammate, former Le Mans winner Jan Lammers, just behind him in fifth. After his promising start, Martini had blotted his copybook on a couple of occasions and dropped well down the order, allowing the sister car, co-driven by Briton Steve Soper, to head the prototype class. But their joy was short-lived, as both cars went out with wheel-bearing failure before the 5-hour mark. The prototype lead now fell into the hands of the team that had won the race outright for the past 2 years with their Yost Porsche cars. And another Briton, James Weaver, was sharing the driving duties in the leading car, but he wasn't finding it easy.
The car's going very well. It's just surprisingly hot in it. The GT cars are normally hot, but with this car, for some reason, when you brake, the cockpit fills up with hot air.
But James's problems were nothing compared to teammate Michele Alboreto, who was out for good just after quarter distance. The Chrysler Vipers were setting the GT2 pace, with the number 51 car driven by former Grand Prix drivers Pedro Lamy and Olivier Beretta doing most of the leading. But they were being pushed hard by the Porsche 911 of Caterham boss Robert Nairn, and their own teammates in the number 53 Viper, whose driving lineup included Britain's reigning class champion Justin Bell. Just after the 8-hour mark, the pressure on the pace-setting Toyota finally caused it to crack, and it would lose 15 minutes fixing a gearbox fault, so handing the lead to the ever-patient Porsches. The Nielsen Nissan now rose to third, but it was 2 laps down, its carbon brakes glowing red hot. However, a Nissan engine was leading the prototype class as the French Courage chassis battled with the Weaver Porsche for 4th place overall. With the Porsche machine in cruise control, team manager Norbert Singer could afford to look relaxed. But he wouldn't have been smiling if he could have seen Uwe Altzen put the leading car onto the beach. Somehow, the German found a handy escape road and got his car back in the race. But at the 10-hour mark, it was now the 26 car of McNish that held a slender 12-second lead as the 37 cars still running headed into the night. At 6 a.m, after 16 hours of racing, the Porsche still ran first and second, but the Boutsen Lees Toyota was soon to take the lead when both Porsches faltered with mechanical problems. Number 29 was back in P1, and the Porsche boys weren't happy, but they weren't beaten either. The Japanese crewed number 32 was now the leading Nissan, splitting the Porsches in third, while by 3/4 distance both Weaver's Porsche and the Courage Nissan had dropped out to hand Wayne Taylor's Ferrari a 14-lap lead in the prototype class. In GT2 it was now the Justin Bell Viper that held a fragile 2-lap lead over the Nairn Porsche, and the pressure was still on.
I'm going to do a double stint. Something I didn't want to do, but they're quite keen we do it because it just saves time in the pits. So I'm actually a little shattered right now.
But he needn't have worried, as it was the Porsche that hit problems, and Justin would eventually lead the Viper team to an impressive 1-2 finish. With just over an hour and a half left, Boutsen prepared to take the Toyota to the finish, hoping to hang on to a slender 1.25-minute lead. In the Porsche pit, Norbert Singer was also about to put Allan McNish into his lead car that the Briton had shared with Frenchmen Laurent Aiello and Stefan Ortelli. But right now, it was the pit crews that were racing. The Toyota left first. The Porsche just 45 seconds later. It would be a sprint to the finish. For Porsche, it would be their 16th win. For Toyota, the great dream of their first. But it wasn't to be.
Sadly, Toyota 29 was leading and dropped out, we believe, with a transmission problem of some sort, which is destroying for the team, because whenever we were on the track, we were the fastest things out there. Car's very new, we perhaps didn't expect it to finish so strongly, but then to get within sight of the finish as they did in 29 is destroying for everybody.
With the Toyota gone, the Porsche team allowed themselves the luxury of a formation pit stop to ensure there was enough fuel to make it to the end, knowing that they were 3 laps clear of the Japanese crewed Nissan that led a 3rd, 5th, 6th and 10th team finish. Reliable enough, but just not quite fast enough. Amongst all these factory entries, a superb 4th fell to the private McLaren GTR of Steve O'Rourke, Tim Sugden and Bill Auberlen, while the surviving Panoz of David Brabham, Andy Wallace and Jamie Davies finished a fine 7th. But it was the Porsche flags that flew highest as their cars cruised to a 1-2 finish ahead of the Japanese crewed Toyota that made it home in 9th. As the clock struck 2, the Porsche party was about to begin. Not a bad way to start the company's 50th anniversary celebrations. Good news for Germany and Britain. Oh, and France as well.